What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
It is UFC 329 Fight Week. We're coming at you with a full main card breakdown and predictions. Each fight will be in the timestamps below, so if there's a particular bout that you're most interested in hearing Nick and I's take on, you'll know where to find it. But we're going to start at the bottom and work our way to the top, the main event, Conor versus Max. So let's get started with the first fight on the main card, and it's actually a banger, low-key, sleeper, potentially fight of the night type of vibes, right?
Or finish of the night.
Or finish of the night. Terrance McKinney, he's known for just a litany of first-round finishes. Yeah. Bobby Green, King Green, as it is now, a grizzled vet, I think 30-something fights in the UFC,
Insane.
on a 3-fight win streak, actually. A lot of people were starting to write Bobby off. He's put together a 3-fight streak. Stylistically, this is really fun because, you know, Bobby's sort of that hands-down, cerebral, very quick, very accurate striker, heavy on the boxing. Terrance McKinney's really good everywhere, does have some really good wrestling and submission game, but he likes to come out of the gate and just swing for the fences. He does not like to get paid by the round. He likes to get the night over with quick. What are your thoughts on this one? I think it's pretty even as far as the odds sit.
Yeah, King Green's got his new shorts, and the UFC should have put pockets in them because I feel like he fights like he has his hands in his pockets, which could be very dangerous for him against Terrance because Terrance starts so fast and so fresh. He's also got a lot of pop on his shots. I've sparred with Terrance many times, and he throws hard. Even when he's not trying to, he lands with some serious pop. So I can't wait to see how this fight goes. If Bobby can get out of the first round, which, giving his style, I do think there's a chance we see that because he's one of those guys that you can't just approach like a regular fighter because he'll throw things from weird angles, right? They're coming from down below his waistline, and he's really good at evading and getting out of the way. But he also does like to plant his feet and get into exchanges with his opponents. So if Terrance can rope him into some early exchanges, I think Terrance's chances go up significantly to get this fight done in the first 5, maybe 7.5 minutes. But if Bobby's able to sort of freeze Terrance and force him into a Bobby Green style fight, then I could see Bobby's chances going up significantly, especially if this goes to decision. And you're saying it could be a fight of the night. I think it's going to be performance of the night because if Terrance isn't able to implement his game, that means King Green's going to be able to implement his. And if that's the case, I think a later finish is going to happen. But I just don't know how a guy as long in the tooth as King Green will be able to avoid taking major shots from Terrance. If Terrance, basically finds a first-round finish against everybody that he fights in the UFC, whether he wins or loses, the fights usually end in the first round. So if he's able to get in there and get active from the jump like we always see him do, I do think Terrance gets his hand raised.
Yeah, I'm going McKinney as well. I've been watching some of the build up to this, the embedded, some training footage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One of the things, Terrance, you mentioned you sparred with him because he used to be here in Texas. He would come down to Houston, Main Street, and get some work in from time to time.
That's right.
We haven't seen him in a little while because he moved down to Orlando.
Yep.
But I can't remember the name of the gym. It was on Embedded where he's...
Like X-Fusion, I think.
Yeah, X-Fusion or something like that. And so he's going to the gym, and he said he sparred 18 rounds the other day. But what I loved was... and Terrance is that kind of guy that you want to get him in fight mode right out of the gate. And it doesn't take much to get there, but you think about sparring and how you get two guys that are competing on a UFC card or a big fight, they get the cage priority. So they're in the cage. They're actually getting their rounds in, in the real feel of what it's going to feel like on fight night. But this gym took it even a step further, right? These guys were lined up on the side. They put his walkout music on. The guys were cheering for him. They had an announcer. I feel like Terrance is locked and loaded and he's coming out heavy. And I think that's problematic for Bobby Green because when you think about the Mauricio Rufy knockout, the Paddy Pimblett finish, the submission, Bobby's really good when he can be where he wants to be in the cage, implement his game plan, use his feints, set up his striking. It's hard to find a guy as clean with boxing and slipping in the pocket as Bobby Green is, but when you push him and you make him fight with his back against the cage like Rufy did, and you overwhelm him, you can find a finish on him.
Sure.
And the way Terrance fights, I feel like matches up perfectly with that, which is why I'm going early KO for McKinney. I think it's going to be either a submission or a KO, but the submission will come off of a knockdown and a ground exchange. But I think if I'm making a final, this is my call, it's going to be first round knockout for Terrance McKinney. He's going to back Bobby Green up against the cage, and he's going to land some big shots and probably finish with some ground and pound. So TKO first round.
Yeah, we usually don't have the exact same predictions, but I think first round TKO for Terrance McKinney is the best call for this fight. King Green is very good at getting out of the way of shots, but there are times where he just gets touched too often, and a guy like Terrance McKinney with the power that he's got is going to be able to find his target early on, which could force Bobby to get a little bit more reckless and start to take even more shots. Yeah, I just think Terrance McKinney's got what it takes to get a guy like King Green out. There's also a little bit of bad blood, and I know Bobby Green is taking it more personally than Terrance. Terrance is saying, this is a fight business. We have to fight who the UFC wants us to fight, and Bobby's saying, no, we're friends. Like, we aren't supposed to fight one another. I don't know the full extent of the story, but I'd love to get some clarity on it, and hopefully we see these two shake hands at the end of the fight, but no promises there.
Yeah, I think they probably will. I think the beef is a little bit more manufactured than it is realistic. I think Bobby's just kind of, finding an angle. Bobby's a marketer. He's a promoter. He's a showman. Yeah. And, at the end of the day, if you get the chance to be on a Conor McGregor main card, you take it.
For sure.
And so I don't fault Terrance there. Let's move into the flyweights. Brandon Royval versus Lonnie Kavanagh.
Great fight.
Quick break in the action, guys, to thank today's sponsor, Kalshi, the predictions markets where you can trade on real-world events, including MMA fights. And what Nick and I love most about Kalshi is that the lines move based on what you guys, the fans and the experts, think is going to happen, and they're not affected by online bookies. And as a special thank you to the Barnhill Brothers listeners, Kalshi is giving you $20 to predict with once you download the app, use the promo code Barnhill, and deposit $20 of your own. So if you think you know MMA ball, stop talking about it and put a little skin in the game with Kalshi. Thanks so much to them for being today's sponsor. Back to the video. Lonnie Kavanagh came back with a great win over Brandon Moreno after suffering a loss to Charles Johnson.
Yep.
And Charles Johnson's kind of like that guy that beats the really good people. He's got a win over Joshua Van. He's got a win over Lonnie Kavanagh. Yep. Brandon Royval, they don't call him Raw Dog for no reason. He fights like it. He's always a live dog. This will be no exception. He's got the veteran experience here. To me, Lonnie Kavanagh feels like he might be that next generation of flyweight. He's, I think, 10-1 is his record now, the only loss being to Johnson. Brandon Royval's been in some wars in there with the champion Joshua Van, one of the best fights we've seen in the last couple of years. But to me, this feels like a stylistic opportunity, let's say,
or mismatch.
Well, I think it's an opportunity for Kavanagh to really show us how good he is and beat a top 7, top 5 sort of guy and cement himself into that discussion. Like, hey, this guy's like 1 or 2 more away from being talked about being in a number 1 contenders match or in a title fight. And I just think Lonnie's got enough ways to win. He can grapple well. He's really clean with his striking. Brandon Royval's always going to be there. I think, this could very well go to decision, but I do believe that Lonnie's got the skills to have top control on the ground if the fight goes there, to be in and out fast enough with his striking to land the better of the exchanges and to not get caught and to not get knocked out. And so I'm going to take Lonnie Kavanagh by 30-27 unanimous decision in this one.
So Raw Dog makes it to the final bell, huh?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, he's so tough, right? He made it to the final bell with Josh Van. I don't see why this would be any different. Kavanagh's got power, but I think this goes to decision. I think Royval's enough of a vet to take it to the final bell.
And it is 125 at the end of the day. Yeah. So, yeah, decision's a good call. I am going to go with Lonnie Kavanagh as well, but I'm more looking at it from a technical side of things. I think he's really developed his hand speed and his boxing defense, and I think that's going to be the biggest issue for Royval trying to beat Lonnie. I think if he's able to get in there and fight like we've seen him in the past where he uses pace and speed and a lot of footwork, that's when Royval's at his best. And it could end up working well if we see Lonnie Kavanagh start to maybe plot and plant his feet a little bit and look for single shots. That's not how he should go about this fight. I think he's got a really good coach as far as the boxing's concerned, because what I've seen out of their camp is obviously good slips and 1-2s and all the stuff, but the main technique that I've been seeing them figure out is anytime a shot comes from Royval that's going to be a hook, they're looking to beat it on the inside track. So if I throw my backhand and throw a hook at your head, and you block it with your right hand, you're going to fire that same right hand. Traditionally, what you see a lot of people do is block a punch like this and return this way. But what we're seeing Lonnie Kavanagh do a lot in this camp is block right here and then find his shot on the inside lane. So I think that shot's going to actually be open for him. I've seen Royval sort of throw looping hooks and shots from the outside a little bit in previous fights, and I think Lonnie Kavanagh picked up on that. His coaches see there's a clear opportunity to land a beautiful counter in a fire exchange. So I think Lonnie Kavanagh could probably end the night with a shot like that, but at the same time, Raw Dog is so durable that I also see this one going to decision. I'm going to go decision for Lonnie Kavanagh.
Good deal. Now let's move one division up to 135. Cory Sandhagen versus Mario Bautista. This
Another
is
great fight.
Potential, I mean, stylistically and like skill-wise, this may be the best fight on the main card and the most evenly matched. I mean, these guys are both really, really high-level fighters. Now, we haven't seen Cory since he lost to Merab when he fought for the title. Mario Bautista coming off of a nice win against Vinicius Oliveira, where he stopped him in the second round, I think it was. Stylistically here, there's a lot to unpack because both these guys, as we saw, Mario against Umar Nurmagomedov, he can hold his own in the grappling, even though Umar got the better of those exchanges. Umar's still kind of Umar.
Sure.
Cory Sandhagen is electric striker, hits you from top to bottom, legs, kicks, knees, elbows, punches, movement, great use of the octagon as a whole, flows the martial arts together well, strikes to takedowns, back to strikes, stuff like that. So this is a hard one for me to call. I want your prediction on this one before I drop mine.
I like Cory Sandhagen in this fight against Mario Bautista because Cory Sandhagen has been able to really figure out the grappling styles of fighters at 135. He's been training for grappling heavy fighters at 135 since the Aljo days. And he hasn't had much of a break. So I think that Mario Bautista isn't quite at the same level as like the Umar Nurmagomedovs and even the Aljamain Sterlings on the ground. And we saw Cory Sandhagen put up great fights, even though he's not won all those fights and, he's not the world champion. He thought by this time in his career, he would be. I do think that his electric style is very hard to plan for, and Bautista has also been training a lot for heavy grapplers. So if you're going camp after camp against guys that are very high-level grapplers, you're kind of focusing on that. You're not thinking about dealing with a Sugar Sean or a Cory Sandhagen electric style
or like
striker.
A power puncher like Vinicius Oliveira. He's not necessarily. I mean, Vinicius can grapple, but he's a different fighter than Cory altogether. He's 100%. A power puncher.
Yeah, he's totally different than Cory, and he stands there in the pocket and likes to throw big shots. Cory's more of a precision sniper, and he likes to use every single, the art of 8 limbs, right? He'll throw a jump knee. He's got some great spinning attacks, great elbows, really clean boxing, great leg kicks when he needs them. So Cory Sandhagen, in my opinion, will win this fight. I think that Bautista's a tough dude, and he's right on the cusp of being a #1 contender, like skill level, but I just don't think that he's going to beat Cory Sandhagen. Cory thought he was going to get the Sugar Sean fight on the Freedom 250 card. For some reason, we didn't get that fight. And Cory also just feels like it's his time. It's not like he's getting an unfair shake from the UFC, but at the same time, he's not getting the same favors that other people get in the UFC. And I think he's got to go make a statement. This is a Conor McGregor card, so I think Cory Sandhagen's going to be fighting to the best of his abilities and will just be one step ahead of Mario Bautista on the feet.
Yeah, I think that's a solid assessment, and I think Cory definitely has more ways to win. Mario is making improvements, right? Every time we see him out there, he gets better. Even in his loss to Umar, he looked pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And I do think that he will be a very difficult opponent for Cory this time around. But I just think that the skill set top to bottom, when you look at, cage IQ, variety of strikes, footwork, ability to mix the striking in with the grappling.
Don't forget, Cory's also incredible at scrambling. He's not some slouch on the ground that's just a striker, and praise to God that this fight doesn't go to the ground. He's very capable on the ground to deal with a guy like Mario Bautista, and I just think that Mario, being a more traditional striker, is going to have a very hard time pinning Cory down and getting him trapped up against the cage where he can let his more traditional strikes go. Cory Sandhagen sets traps in that cage all night long, and usually he winds up finding his shots, the big jump knee. Everybody knows Cory Sandhagen for the jump knee, and he's very good at finding it. It seems like he can't miss once he's got you falling into those traps, and I don't want to go decision. I kind of feel like that's the smarter way to go. But Mario Bautista's really small, really durable, and he's got a good fight IQ. He's good defensively. So I do think Cory Sandhagen's going to need all 15 minutes to beat him. But I still got Cory Sandhagen winning by decision.
Yeah, I got decision too. I think Mario's a dog. He's tough. He's grizzled. He's not easy to get out of there. And Cory's not a power puncher. I think Cory overwhelms him with volume. I think we see some scrambling. I think we see Cory get the better of the scrambling. I think we see some clinch work with some nice knees on both parts. But ultimately, 29-28, maybe 30-27.
Yeah.
Cory Sandhagen edges one out. And I think so. We've been, what's that, 3 for 3? We've picked all the same so far.
Yeah, something's got to give.
Well, I think I have an inkling of which way you're going on this next one. So I think we may have our first difference of the night. Paddy Pimblett versus Benoit Saint Denis.
Let's go, lad.
Yeah, Benoit Saint Denis, since switching camps, training with Nicholas Ott, the trainer for Nasruddin Imavov, he's taken a different approach to his game. He's cleaned his striking up. He's taken his time. He's looking really good in there, and he's getting early finishes. He's getting first or second round knockouts or submissions. Has not been to a judge's scorecard in a while. And Paddy Pimblett is as grizzled and tough as it comes. And that was evidenced in the fact that he went all 5 rounds with Justin Gaethje when we saw that Ilia Topuria, who I don't think anybody would say that Ilia is not tough, there's at least nobody in their right mind
for sure
would say that Ilia is not tough. Ilia could not do. And so you're in there for 5 rounds, 25 minutes with the current champion, taking a beating, landing some shots of your own, and you're still there in your game and you're tough to make it till the end. So this is going to be interesting for BSD because I don't think he's going to get Paddy out of there right away. No. Certainly not in the first round, which means that, how is his later round cardio going to look? We haven't seen that in a couple of years from BSD. We know that Paddy's is going to look good. What are your thoughts on this one? I feel like this is a tough one stylistically to pick. And I've gone back and forth in my head. I have my final prediction, but I want to hear yours.
Yeah, so Paddy versus BSD is a very fun fight. And I'm worried that this staph infection is real, but I'm just going to go with the assumption that it won't be bothering him by the time they step into the octagon. So I think we're going to see a very close, even fight. Paddy's loss to Justin Gaethje did more to raise his stock than his entire win streak to get to that opportunity of the interim title. And everybody's realizing just how damn good he is once you see how he was able to make it 25 minutes with Justin Gaethje, had some great moments in that fight as well, and then outshines Ilia Topuria in a title fight against Justin Gaethje. But BSD is obviously doing a lot of things right these days. I know with the Dustin Poirier loss, he looked really good until he got finished, but he did right some of those wrongs and sort of patch up some of those holes in his game. And I think moreover, he's just using fight IQ to understand where he has the best chance possible to win these fights. And if he's able to get to those positions or get his opponent mentally broken down, he can start to implement his will and force his game on his opponents. But Paddy is not that easy to get out of there. He's very durable. He's actually quite intelligent with his defense. I know his head movement isn't great, but he uses footwork to get out of the way of shots. And he seems like, even though he's taken some more damage, and I guess the day that the Scouser finally gets knocked out will eventually come, I don't see it coming this Saturday. I don't think that he's going to get knocked out by BSD. And I also don't think that either man can submit the other one without seriously injuring them with big shots before the submission happens. So I don't really see Paddy going out there and knocking BSD out unless BSD just runs into like a knee or an uppercut. And I don't think BSD's style against the guys that we've seen recently is that of the get out there and just knock the guy out, throw caution to the wind, and go out there with reckless abandon and try to get the knockout. I think he understands now this fight with Paddy the Baddy could definitely launch him into contendership and be a very meaningful win for him. So I think he's going to be a little bit more calculated and cautious, and that could ultimately end up having him lose those early rounds, which then opens up his final round, the third round, into a more wild fight. And that's where I think the best chance for Paddy to get a finish is. So I'm going to go round 3 TKO for Paddy the Baddy over BSD.
Okay. So we are going to differ here. I'm taking Benoit Saint Denis to win this fight.
Okay.
When I was watching tape and, sort of looking back at the last few fights for both guys, looking at the statistics and stuff like that, the one thing that kept sticking out to me was how often Benoit gets his opponents to the ground.
Yeah.
And I think he averages almost 5 takedowns per fight. And Paddy actually does not even average 1 takedown per fight. It's like 0.5.
Right.
Paddy's good on the ground if he gets there, just by happenstance, right? But he's not a guy to just come out and use wrestling to take you down. Benoit is. Benoit's also cleaned up his striking with the new camp. His punches are less looping. He's less square to his opponent. He's more bladed. He's like you said, he's taking his time. Now, that can be deceiving to say he's taking his time because he's still getting first and second round finishes, but he's not like with Dustin Poirier. He had Dustin really hurt, and then he just opened right up and boom, got knocked out.
Yeah.
He's being a little bit more calculated with his entries. He's taking his time when he has blood in the water and has his opponent hurt, in finding the appropriate way to finish his opponent and not throwing caution to the wind. And I do like the fact that his punches have been cleaned up from being a little bit loopy to a little bit more straight, whereas Paddy's are kind of loopy still. And so I see Benoit winning most of the feet exchanges. The X factor is Paddy's chin, because I think Benoit cannot afford to take as many shots as Paddy can.
No.
Paddy's just got a hell of a chin.
Yeah.
But I also see Benoit getting Paddy down multiple times in the fight. And so if Benoit's going to get Paddy down, how long is that going to last? He's good with top control. I don't think he's going to submit Paddy. Paddy's got really good bottom jiu-jitsu, but he's definitely going to win minutes. He's definitely going to win, the exchanges. He's good with his ground and pound and stuff like that. Being that I would probably say late finish for BSD if it was a 5-rounder, but because it's a 3-rounder and Paddy's just so game, I see Paddy being dominated for maybe 2 of the 3 rounds and then one of the other ones being close. So I like BSD by decision in this one, 29-28 for Benoit Saint Denis.
Well, let me throw a hot take at you, because I definitely have been watching some of the BSD fights, and one thing he does really well once he's got you backed up against the cage is he likes to change levels, shoot in, get a hold of you, and use the cage to take you down. One thing I think Paddy the Baddy might actually look for is a guillotine, and he might jump the guillotine. I jump Gilly, right? Everybody knows Dustin Poirier for it, but I think Paddy actually wants to get a finish in the UFC with a guillotine like that. So I could see BSD maybe rocking Paddy, getting him backed up to the cage, and then shooting in, and then Paddy using some of that offensive submission grappling to look for a guillotine. I could see him jumping Gilly and finishing the fight there, but at the same time, I also think that BSD's defense is pretty solid, and he's not going to go into anything too crazy like he used to. He's kind of reformed himself and is a bit of a higher IQ fighter. So I still think that if Paddy wins this fight, it's going to happen via TKO late in the fight.
There we go. And let's move into the main event of the evening. The return of the Mac.
Man, yes.
5 years removed, Conor McGregor. All the feels, all the nostalgia, it's right back. Him and Nina drama. Nina's become a fan. She was nobody back when Conor was fighting, and now she's the biggest person in MMA media. To see them meet, and it was almost, and I'm, maybe reading more into it than it is, but it seemed to me like Nina has never looked to be starstruck before. She looked a little bit starstruck when she saw Conor.
Right.
And that shows you just how big of a of a fight week it is when Conor's fighting. I don't care that he hasn't been around in 5 years. I don't care that he hasn't won in a long time. I know all the stuff that's happened outside of the cage, but when you look at the numbers, go look at UFC Countdown on YouTube, go look at the embeddeds that Conor's actually in. The guy's undeniable.
Oh, yeah.
His numbers are undeniable. Now, the problem is he's fighting a fighter in Max Holloway. I almost said fighting a somebody. He's definitely a somebody.
That's for sure.
Fighting somebody in Max Holloway who is been around the whole 5 years Conor's been gone.
7 fights.
He's been fighting for belts. He's been winning BMF belts. He's been knocking people out with 1 second left on the clock, current champions. And he's also lost some fights in there as well.
Yep.
And, he's been knocked out, which he had, prior to Conor's leaving, Max had never been knocked out. Now he has. He was just dominated by Charles Oliveira in the grappling. Conor had, I think, 80% takedown accuracy on Max the first time they fought. Yeah. So there's some things there. I won't bury the lead here. I'm going to go Max Holloway. I do believe that Max is, I think there's something to be said for inactivity. When you're in your 37, almost 38 years old for Conor, whereas Max is 34, the entire time Conor's been off, Max has been training, improving, fighting, learning from his mistakes, growing, getting better, super great cardio, super high volume, good accuracy, overwhelming pressure. It kind of boils down to me that the only way that Conor can really reasonably have a chance in this is an early knockout, because you're not going to out-pressure Max in the later rounds. You're not going to out-volume Max in the later rounds. Maybe you could make a case that he could out-grapple him in the later rounds based on their first fight and then based on what just happened with Charles Oliveira. But I don't think that's the most likely road. So I see some chance for Conor early in the first 2 rounds, let's say the first 7 to 10 minutes to get a knockout. If he doesn't, I do think it gets kind of bad and overwhelming with volume and pressure. And when you couple that with the fact that Max Holloway was at the 3rd round, he got knocked out by Ilya. That was on a heavily depleted cut back to 145 after he was at 155 for the BMF belt. Some say it was too much too soon. This is at 170. Max is not going to have barely any cut at all, if he has any. And so I think the durability is not going to be a question. We're going to see durable Max like we always have. And in Conor's run to the belt, he was knocking everybody out.
Right.
Who was the decision? Max Holloway. So I think that Max Holloway has enough durability to get through the first 2 rounds, and that means it's going to get bad for Conor in the later rounds of the fight. So I think that Max Holloway finds a TKO victory 3rd or 4th round.
Nice. I know I sound crazy saying this, but Conor McGregor is going to win this fight. I have drank the Conor McGregor Kool-Aid. Obviously, he's been out for 5 years. We haven't seen much, certainly not very much training coming out of him over the past 5 years. But John Kavanagh came out and said, the last 6 months have been the hardest I've ever seen Conor McGregor work. And I truly think that Conor is going to come in with a more mixed martial arts approach than he did in the previous, where he was coming in more looking like a boxer. I think that Conor misses MMA. I think he actually misses mixing the martial arts, going for takedowns. If you go back and look at the fight with Max Holloway, right, he was shooting plenty of takedowns. There were all sorts of scrambles and fun opportunities both on the feet and on the ground when they fought. Now, it was 13 years ago, so you can't even go watch that fight and get an idea for what's going to happen 2 weight classes up and 13 years removed.
Yeah, no bearing, yeah.
Right, but I do think that Conor McGregor is going to look to utilize as many different of the martial arts that he's honed in for the past several, 2 decades, and try to make this like the real return of Conor, not coming back off a few years where he was focused on boxing, right? The Floyd Mayweather camp is what made him come in with a boxing heavy style. I think he realized, okay, I'm not as good as Floyd Mayweather, but I can outbox all these guys. And I think if I can get my hands on them, out of 22 wins, I've got 19 knockouts, almost all being done with my fists. So let me go out there and I'll just knock these guys out. It's not that easy when Dustin Poirier is standing across the cage from you and you can't knock him out. So I think we're going to see Conor kick a bit more. I do expect Conor McGregor to shoot at least 1 takedown. Hopefully the takedown doesn't come out of exhaustion or out of getting cracked and hurt like he did against Nate Diaz, right? He felt too many shots and then just had a half-assed shot attempt, and that was not good. I hope we don't see that kind of shot. But if he comes out more like he did against Max Holloway, rolling thunder right into a double leg, and really shows us that he's not just focused on fighting with his hands. He's not just focused on boxing anymore. I think he truly has missed MMA and he's on a mission. He doesn't seem like this is a one-off. It doesn't feel like he just needs to go line his pockets because he's out of money like Floyd Mayweather. I think he actually does believe he can come back and look better than ever and really take his throne back. Justin Gaethje said he's going to be cage side. He's going to be watching. And I know this fight's happening at 170, but the winner of this fight, especially if it's Conor McGregor, will be fighting for that 155 title sometime next year against Justin Gaethje. And I'd be lying if I didn't say Conor McGregor versus Justin Gaethje is an incredible match. And I actually like Conor's chances to win against Justin Gaethje more than I like his chances to beat Max Holloway. But all of that said, I still think this fight is done in less than 10 minutes. I think Conor McGregor has something up his sleeve. What that is, I don't know. Cowboy Cerrone, he showed us the shoulder strikes, right? That proved to be pretty effective. And then if you go and look, obviously after the shoulder strikes happened, and that was a very short-lived fight, but the angles Conor was finding shots from and the shot selection where he was picking the right shots from the ground and pound to when Cerrone was on the cage, everything he was doing was very calculated and measured. And I think Conor McGregor's very smart. He's got a high fight IQ, and he just sees the game differently than everybody else. And I love Max Holloway. I want nothing but good things to happen for Max Holloway, but being, a major fan of Conor McGregor, a major fan of the UFC, and just wanting to see the wildest possible outcomes, I feel like Conor McGregor has some magic in the air. I don't know what it is.
You're talking like a Jorge Masvidal flying knee type of magic.
Maybe not quite that crazy or that quickly, but I do think he's gonna do something that we aren't expecting, and nobody would really have it on their radar for something Conor McGregor is going to bring to a cage. But I honestly think Conor McGregor gets his hand raised here, and I think he does it in TKO fashion. He's going to knock Max Holloway out. 170 is going to prove to be too heavy for Max Holloway. I think he's going to be a little bit slower than he usually is at 45 and 55. And he's also not as durable as he used to be. Anytime you get knocked out, your durability goes down at least 10% in my book. And so if Conor McGregor, who's a sniper and knows how to find his target, lands a couple big shots early with those big 170-pound Irish paws, we could see Max Holloway, with wobbly legs very early. And I think the finishing instincts from Conor McGregor are good enough to get even a guy at Max Holloway's skills out of there. So I got round 1 or round 2 TKO victory for Conor McGregor.
Boy, when you said you drank the Kool-Aid, you really weren't kidding.
I went all in. I had a full gallon and just bottoms up.
I would love to see it. And I've said this many times. Max Holloway is one of my top 5 favorite fighters of all time. I love how game he is. I love how he always says yes. I love how he always shows up to put on a show and be fan friendly. I like him outside the octagon. I think he's a great family man. Like, I'm a huge fan of Max Holloway. But to see Conor come back after the leg break in 5 years of on again, off again discipline to become a contender, which is what he would become
for sure
immediately with a win, when a lot of people thought that we would never see him grace the octagon again, would be something pretty spectacular. And I think that, even as a big of a fan of Max as I am, I almost want to be down for that one more Conor ride, right? Because if he goes out there and he looks like a shell of himself, if he goes out there and he gets his ass kicked by Max Holloway and it's not even competitive, then Brendan Schaub said it best on his breakdown that I was watching the other day. We all just have to kind of exhale and say, man, it was fun while it lasted, but the Conor ride is over. And if he goes in there and if he gets dominated, that's exactly where we'll be come Sunday morning. And just selfishly, maybe, I'm not ready for that to happen yet. I was such a big fan of Conor's rise. There was nothing like it. If there's one more little run he's got left in him, I'm here to see it. So I'm rooting for Conor, but I got to go with what I think will actually happen because we owe it to you all, the viewers, to predict what I think is most accurately going to happen, and I truly believe Max is going to piece him up.
Don't forget, Conor McGregor was the first champ. I think he trademarked the words.
He did.
Champ.
I think so.
So what has happened in MMA since then? So now we've got like 11 double champs, and now people are actually going for triple champ status. And Dana White said it himself. If Alex Pereira beat Cyril Gane on the Freedom 250 card, he is the GOAT. I think that Conor McGregor, though he's got all the records in the books and he's, the biggest star the sport's ever seen, I don't think anybody really has him on that GOAT list. And you can debate that. I don't think there's much to debate there. But if Conor McGregor comes back after 5 years off and beats the former BMF champion, one of the best featherweights of all time in Max Holloway, and then comes back, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, comes back and fights Justin Gaethje and beats Justin Gaethje, then he can actually look at 170 and be the first guy to not only become champ, but also jump over guys like Ilia Topuria and Alex Pereira, who seemed like they would be the first guys to be triple champs. Imagine if Conor McGregor becomes the first triple champ. Now, I understand he'd have to beat Islam Makhachev, or he'd have to, saw his leg off and go to 135, where he might have a better chance with one leg to beat Peter Yan than he has 2 legs to beat Islam Makhachev. But I'm just saying, anything can happen in this sport, and all it takes is 1 or 2 wins in a row for Conor McGregor to find himself in not only world title fights, but a world title fight in a division that he's never fought for a world title in. And again, I would not predict Conor to beat Islam Makhachev, but who knows what happens at 170 between now and then. And all I'm saying is Conor McGregor probably wants to be at the very top of the GOAT list. If you saw the interview he did with Paramount, whoever it was that was interviewing him, they asked him about the GOATs, and he said, well, I'm the GOAT. John Jones can't punch. He has no boxing. Anderson Silva's good. I won't throw any disrespect his way. He threw a lot of disrespect at Volkanovski. Volkanovski didn't even crack his top 10 on the GOAT list.
Didn't deserve that.
But how cool was it that he put Khabib and Islam both in his top 10 for GOAT status, but he also had Islam 2 slots above Khabib because of the body of work. So I think that there is some angling that Conor's going to look to do. If he's able to beat Max, I think we see him either fight Justin Gaethje or move right into some meaningful fight at 170. Either way, there's a path to Conor McGregor potentially becoming champion once again, though very lofty, and I'm probably way off on this. I'm here for the ride, and I hope we see it.
Somebody send the Kool-Aid bus for Nick. That's all we got for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this. We hope you enjoy the fights this weekend. Make sure you come back on Saturday and hang out with us for the live stream. Nick and I are going to be going live and giving commentary all main card long. So we're going to start just before the McKinney versus King Green fight, and we're going to go all the way through till after the main event is over, and then we're going to provide some commentary thereafter as well. So make sure you tune in for that. Thank you so much. Have a great week, and we'll see you then.
Peace.